So when I first got an EA to help me with stuff, like I found myself in this very, very uncomfortable place where I had a lot of space and time, which is what
Mm.
everybody supposedly strives for. Uh, but you got to watch what you wish for, I think. And I really struggled with the mental space of just having room and time to think about the business and kind of work on the business. And I really found that quite much more challenging than I thought I would. And and so, but I've worked through that now, and I'm much more comfortable with it. And it's a really now I'm really enjoying being able to just put my time towards the big picture stuff.
Hi, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Organization Business Podcast. I'm your host, Linh Podetti. This is where we bring you authentic conversations with exceptional entrepreneurs, unpacking the challenges behind their success stories. In today's episode, we're joined by Tony Merritt, founder of Sydney Pain Centres, an EO Sydney member since 2023, and a seasoned entrepreneur whose career spans advertising, psychology, and healthcare. Tony began his career in multinational advertising before pivoting into clinical psychology, where he spent 10 years working in the public hospital system. From there, he built his own psychology practice, which evolved into a specialist medical business, a corporate psychology firm, and even a practice finance company. Today, Tony leads an organization of around 80 people across multiple locations through a unique healthcare contracting model. Tony's story is one of resilience and reinvention, nearly going bankrupt twice during COVID, yet rebuilding stronger by staying curious and embracing new ways of doing business. He also shares his perspective on mental health, reflecting on how societal changes have increased loneliness despite greater connectivity and shifts in work identity. Let's welcome Tony Merritt to the show.
This episode is sponsored by Outsourcing Angel, your partner for skilled offshore staff in LinkedIn marketing, lead generation, customer support, and more. As a social enterprise, we donate 10% of profits to charity and provide heart-centered VAs who go the extra mile for your success. Visit outsourcingangel.com.
Welcome to the show, Tony. So great to have you on the show, finally.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks for having me.
Because I know you don't normally do podcasts, so it's such a privilege for you to be here and share your story. Let's start with a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur. Like, how did you get started in business, and was this business the first one, or is it the many that you've tried?
No, my original career. I was in advertising, so I worked in a multinational advertising agency, and then I kind of got a bit. It wasn't really what I wanted to do, and so I went back to uni and studied psychology and did my undergrad, then my master's in clinical psychology. And then I just came out and just did a bit of private practice, working about half a day a week, and it's just grown organically on its own from there. Yeah.
Wow. So this is technically your first business that you've been able to really make it thrive because you've got that industry experience.
Yeah, I think I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. When I was a kid, I used to sell sandwiches at school and things like that, and so there was always something going on, you know. When I was at uni, I ran a market research business. So I've always done bits and bobs like that for myself, but this is the first time. Well, it's been a long time I've been doing it for, that I've actually run my own proper business of employees and all those kind of things.
Yeah. So you mentioned you always had that entrepreneur gene. Was your parents, or did you have any mentors around that really showing you that world of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so my mum was a bit of a sales guru in the 1970s. So she started off selling makeup door to door in the 1970s, like makeup parties for people. I don't know.
Yeah. Is it like Amway, or sorry, there was another? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. And so she started off as a canvasser, just knocking on people's doors to get parties for other people, and ended up one of the two kind of regional managers of the company, and had a really big business in that. And so when I was a kid, whenever I asked her advice, she would tell me to read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, rather than kind of actually just telling me what to do, which probably would have been much more helpful. But so I guess I kind of have that kind of background in my parents. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you seem like a very curious kid as well, like already asking advice from mum and trying to succeed in life. Like, what motivated you to really strive for success, I guess, even that early on?
Always enjoyed learning, really. I really like it, and that's my main motivator, really, is about doing things. Probably from a business decisions, I don't I never really make decisions based around what brings the most money. I just in the background. I've always done things based on what I was most interested in and what kind of piqued my attention. And I've found that, but maybe that's an ADHD thing. But maybe I found that as I just follow what I'm interested in, opportunities seem to emerge. Doors seem to open and windows seem to open because I'm interested and I'm engaged in it. So that's the driver for most of my life, really. Yeah.
Love it. So let's take us through the journey in your current business. Like, how did you first build it? What's the business model? Who do you serve?
Yeah, so my business is it's a mixed health business, and so we've got some specialist medical practices, which is probably the biggest part of it, and then some clinical psychology practices, and then a corporate psychology business, and a medical billing and practice management business. So it's quite diverse. As I said, it just started off from me working on my own. And I'd like to say that there was some grand strategy, but actually, it's just kind of evolved as it's gone. But it's reasonably big now. I've got about 80 people work for me. With sort of reasonable size, and so I've had to kind of go through all the different processes and stages of building a business, from just being like a one-man band to just a guy working with a couple of mates, through to now employing lots of people and having to have structures and processes and things like that. So it's been a series of stages, really, that had different challenges along the way. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you kind of have like a contractor model where these, I guess, of specialists people that are they self-employed or they're contractors that you have to bring into the business?
Yeah, so in my industry and in the health industry, most healthcare professionals that work in private practice are self-employed. So they kind of run their own. It's like they're running their own business as such. So it's a really difficult thing to traverse, because they kind of work for us, but they don't. We work for them. So it's a difficult thing to kind of find your way through. So when I first started the business, the contracting model was we used to contract them to provide services to us for our clients, and then
Mm.
about 4 years ago, changed that around completely in the opposite direction. So now they contract us to provide services for them to build their.
Ah,
That's a very different arrangement, and it's got. Yeah. So it's quite different. Uh,
yeah.
yeah. But the industry very much works like that, on a contracting model. Yeah.
Yeah. And so as you're scaling now, you've got a lot more people and I think you've got multiple locations. What has been some of the challenges that you've faced that you've been able to, I guess, navigate or eventually overcome?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could talk about them. If you got 2 days, I could probably go through them all. It's like a lot of it's the stuff that I'm sure other people kind of deal with. Like managing cash flow has been really difficult. I found that really challenging because I'm not a money person. I like the culture, I like the strategy, I like where we're going, I like what we're doing. I don't really want to know when we don't have any money. So I've found managing cash flow difficult, and when the business was small, we didn't need to. But now it's big, we do,
Mm,
and that was a particular challenge in COVID as well. Really difficult.
mm,
COVID. In fact, during COVID, I almost went bankrupt twice in COVID.
mm. Yeah. How did you overcome that? I mean, and what do you mean by nearly bankrupt twice within COVID? How did you get through it then?
Yeah, well, the first time when COVID hit, none of us in health really expected, like and none of us had worked in online telehealth. We didn't know anything about it at all. And we literally I came home one Friday, and the whole weekend was spent not asleep. And by Monday, business was complete with telehealth. And we had a most of our money comes from hospital procedures for the doctors, and that stopped completely. So we lost 90% of our turnover over one weekend, literally in that. So that was one, and then the second, but then the job keeper came in, and all those. That really helped a great deal, and the staff were great. Like everybody was really engaged in trying to keep things afloat.
Mm,
So that was good. And then the second time was we were going through COVID, and we were pretty lean, and times were tough and money was difficult. and someone told me, a finance person told me that we really need to restructure the business and kind of how it was set up from a taxation point of view and things like that. And I was renovating my house at the time, and I just finished renovating the house, and we restructured the business, and no one worked out that in the restructure we were changing our accounting periods, and it completely wiped out all our cash flow. Uh, we went from having money in the bank to having nothing in the bank. I had no money because I just finished renovating my house, and what, so it was really like it was pretty scary time. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you recover from that? Like, what were some of the first few steps that you took to go, instead of throwing the towel and go, "All right, I'll go back to a job or something," and to just continuing?
Yeah, I really like fighting for things, you know? So I think that spirit was there to fight for it. My accountant was awesome, and she said, "It'll be okay, we'll get you through it." We went to the bank, we got a loan. It was probably the lowest period for me, professionally in my career because I just felt just sick all the time, you know? But there's some I don't know, there's some I think in entrepreneurs, there's something in you that sometimes when you're on your knees and you're at your lowest and it's the most difficult, that's when the best comes out in you, you know?
Yeah.
And so I felt like I kinda wanted to fight for it, and I did fight for it, and I'm glad I did now because we're doing really well now.
So have you then put more effort in caring about numbers, or are you still kind of like it's an area that you still need to work on?
I try to about numbers, yeah. You think that's the thing. So, yeah, so I've done a bit of, I listen a lot more to I listen a lot more to my accountant and my bookkeeper now. And my bookkeeper's a bit of a, like, she kind of whips me in the shape a fair bit because, she says, "Tony, you need to be doing this. You need to be paying attention to this, and you need to be taking care of this stuff." So I do listen to those people a lot more, and I I trust them that they're guiding me in the right kind of way because it's just not how my head works, you know?
Yeah. Well, talking about listening, I remember having a coffee with you once and you kind of got curious how this kind of offshore EA worked and you couldn't get your head around it. But once again, your curiosity and you trusting in me, you gave it a go. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know what it's like when someone has used to working with local staff and building physical teams and things and navigating into this virtual world. Yeah, tell me more about that.
So one of the challenges for our business, I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago, is that like if you've got a manufacturing business, right, or like a SaaS business, you set up your structure, and then once you've got your structure in place, you have the potential to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times as much turnover with the same structure, right? So
Yeah.
it's a really cool scaling thing. But in health, it doesn't really work like that because a lot of the support that people need is is human intent stuff, right? So, if you've got 5 doctors, they need probably 4 times as much support as 1, if that makes sense.
Mm,
Right?
mm.
And if you've got 10, they need 8 times support as much as 1. So the scaling isn't anywhere near as impressive as it is in other types of businesses. And so I was always struggling with that, with the physical resources and the support. And I was on the EO WhatsApp group once, and there was this chat about these VAs, and I thought, well, what the hell are these things, you know?
Did you think they were like AI bots or something?
That's right, aliens. They were, um, and I thought, what are these? And I started listening to what people were saying, and had a few meetings. And I had a meeting with you, and I met with a couple of other people too who did VA stuff, and I thought, wow, there's something in this, and so we hired one VA, and she started doing a few little bits and bobs. And quite quickly, I thought, "Wow, this is really cool." But as you know, we've now got quite a few uh, VAs, and we're probably going to be adding more as well. They started off by doing a lot of the background admin stuff for us to keep things moving along. I have a VA now who's more my like EA.
Mm.
She's awesome. She's really good. And in the future, we're probably going to be looking at hiring some more VAs to interact with AI agents, to look after the background processes of AI agents. But I think the VA model has been really helpful with this thing about, when you've got a business that's so human resource intense, being able to have people like VAs in the background managing that and supporting that has been a massive difference in our business. It's been huge.
Yeah, and you've got your staff that's also kind of liaising and managing them on your behalf. Were they familiar with this? Was it hard to get them on board to also, work with someone offshore?
I found that definitely there's a small cohort of people that are kind of anti the idea,
Mm.
because they've got preconceived ideas about what that kind of thing's like and what it's about. Um, but and so you've got to, like for those people, really, like most change processes, you kind of just have to start making the change and bring them along with you,
Mhm.
But the majority of people in the business have actually found it to be awesome, and I think in particular the standard of the work that's done by some of the VAs, is just exceptional. So in the end, for the few doubters, I think the quality of what's done shines through.
Mm, mm. And what's interesting is like you've got a big business, you've got lots of people. Did you not have an EA for yourself before that? Like you were kind of just handling. Tell me more about life before BV, before VA, and kind of life after. How are you really delegating your personal or business admin?
Yeah, I mean, it's a psychology thing, I think. Like I like being busy, and when I'm not really busy, I start to go a bit kind of bit batty. I think, my head starts to race and I start to get restless and I start to think, oh my God, what's my life about? Like it really gets, don't be a psychologist and it's not place to be. And I just get really, so then I start creating things to do, and I start coming up with ideas and projects and things like that. And then I get really busy and then I can't follow through and everything. So it's just this pattern I kind of engage in. So when I first got an EA to help me with stuff, like I found myself in this very, very uncomfortable place where I had a lot of space and time, which is what everybody supposedly strives for. Uh, but you got to watch what you wish for, I think. And I really struggled with the mental space of just having room and time to think about the business and kind of work on the business. And I really found that quite much more challenging than I thought I would. And
Mm.
and so but I've worked through that now, and I'm much more comfortable with it, and now I'm really enjoying being able to just put my time towards the big picture stuff.
Mm,
So I think that's the big change for me with the VA thing is actually what do you do? What do you actually do when you've got time on your hands?
yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of my new passion. I have been running workshops about how to actually start caring about other areas of your life, your family, travel, and health, etc. Because if we're not mindful of what we do with our time, we end up filling up with more work and more projects, more opportunity to make more money, but the money isn't really the only answer to your life's happiness. How have you discovered or thought about this area?
Yeah, I mean, I think we feel that's like, I mean, this is more the psychologist in me now, right? But like, our minds are kind of like they're machines designed to create purpose and meaning and cause and find reasons and put things together and link things and do things, right? So when your mind's left to its own devices, sometimes it just spins off in all kinds of different directions. And sometimes those things are great and sometimes they're not. So, for me, it's been that a process of recognizing those things, what one does when I don't have things to do. I've always been reasonably good with family. Like I love spending time with my kids and my wife and stuff. But I do find that if I really am kind of, if I really am focused much more on that kind of stuff, then my life feels much better. You know.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question really.
Yeah, totally. Um, let's talk about EO. We met EO. How did you discover it, and what has been your journey?
Yeah, so I was at a wedding actually, with a mate of mine, Dave Cunningham, who was an old EOer from way back, and and I was at his wedding, and we were sitting there, and I started chatting to people, and I was like, I thought, I don't know, where am I? Like, I kept talking to all these people, and they kept talking about this thing called EO, and and I thought, "Oh, God," dropped into some weird kind of time warp place, and eventually I ended up having a chat with a guy called Harms, who
Mm.
and Susie had a really lovely time talking to him, and spoke to him for probably a good couple of hours, and the conversation eventually turned to work, and and I was kind of talking about COVID and still struggling a year down the line after COVID and trying to turn the business around, and I couldn't understand really why I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And he said, "Oh, you think about why don't you have a think about like EO?" And so then, as I say, I was talking to other people in the party, and I said, "Oh, I've met this guy called Hans," and "Oh, Hans, yeah, he's a great guy." And so it sort of triggered my interest in it, and then I got in touch and sort of just started talking to people about it, and I thought, "Oh, this could be maybe this could be the kind of the thing that I'm kind of needing a bit."
Mm.
So I came to the what's it? The test drive. That's what it's called, isn't it?
Mm.
To the test drive, and yeah, and I just thought, wow, this seems like a really great place to kind of to sit, because it's a kind of lonely thing running a business.
Mm.
Um, my business partner at the time was having a lot of personal issues, so he wasn't sort of involved in the business a great deal. So we're struggling with all this money stuff from COVID. One of my kids was struggling at school. There's a bunch of things going on, and it sort of came along at a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, what do you like about it? And yeah, what are some of the resources or people or connection that you've been able to make because of EO?
Yeah, I think, like, really, what do I like about it? I mean, I joined my first forum, and I was in a forum with, Paul Gordon and Sophia Samia,
Mm.
and I just, they just made me feel really welcome from the very beginning, and I really felt like I was part of a really supportive group of good people, you know? And, so I think the initial feeling was that, like, I felt kind of very easy and supported and at home with those people.
Mm.
I really enjoyed that side of it. Then I went to a few of the talks, the sort of the various things and cybersecurity and share ownership and AI and all those kind of things. And so I just felt my perspective on my business expand.
Mm.
And it's kind of gone, it's sort of gone from there, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So talking about, I guess when you were young, you were being entrepreneurial. Are you kind of leading your kids to become entrepreneurs? Are you intentional about that? Do you find that they're also very curious and asking you questions? What's been I guess is it genetic that they're all going to become the next entrepreneur?
I don't know. What's that? Is that a Kenny Rogers song? Don't let your kids grow up to be cowboys. Like you don't. No, you sort of don't want your kids to grow up to go through what you went through. I think my kids are very like they're really different. I don't know about your kids, but my kids are just they're same parents, and they're quite different people. So my oldest daughter's quite quiet, and quite introverted and doesn't give a lot away,
Mm.
whereas my younger daughter is very out there, very extroverted. They both like working. Like I had a paper round when I was 12, and they both have jobs. Uh, both save quite a bit of money, which so I suppose there's a working spirit in there.
Yeah.
But for you, Lynn, I mean, you're obviously sort of migrant background, and my wife's Croatian, their family, and they're just workers. They just work. I think the working spirit is definitely in my kids, and
Yeah.
that's genetic. And that, but I think they've also got that love of learning, and they really enjoy finding out new things and understanding new things. And I think if I can give my kids one gift in life, it's the love of learning, because I think it's
Yeah.
something that it'll carry you through I think carry you for all, any adversity really.
Yeah, totally. I feel like business for me, it used to be about like how to make the most money and scale. And I realize it's such a game of personal development. Like I've been on a journey to develop myself, and it wasn't for those hard times. I wouldn't build the resilience if it wasn't for not knowing what the next step is, and your boss is not telling you what to do. You're kind of always having to navigate and pivot, and it's like I am who I am, or the strength that I have is because of business. So I kind of want that for my kids, more of the kind of person they become because of business. But yeah, do you find that you've really evolved through your journey? Have you become more vulnerable or more, yeah,
Yeah, I think, I mean,
that's
with my kids as well, I think, my kids are definitely both, they have persistence, and and I think that definitely is really important, isn't it? I mean, you're talking about that there, about your persistence and, and how you stick with things. And, again, going back to my mum, she um, kind of choked me up a little bit. Actually, I remember when I was a kid and there was something happening and she gave me this poem called Don't Quit. And, and it was this same thing about, life's full of doubt and, and too many people give up, when they should keep going. And it was
mm,
this inspirational poem that she gave me when I was like 10 or 11 or whatever. And my daughter was my oldest daughter. He's very good at maths, and she went for a period of time where she was really struggling,
mm,
just with the immense workload of doing kind of an accelerated maths course. And her marks went downhill, and I found this poem, like I found this poem that mum gave me when I was 12, and I just put it on a pillow and kinda left it there for her, and so I don't know, those kind of things, that kind of persistence, I think is,
yeah.
for your kids is really important too.
Yeah, love that. And I love that you're so sentimental and you kept a poem when your mum gave it to you at 12 years old. It's just so beautiful. Um, Talking about psychology, I mean, you're in that space and you see a lot, hear a lot. I find from my observation that there's more people in mental health and more challenges. And what can you share with us in terms of your understanding in the market that you're in and people you deal with all the time?
I mean, I get really worried. I'm worried about there's a whole bunch of things in society that really worry me at the moment, like, I think, the fact that we're sort of so, we've never been more connected, but we've never been more lonely, you know?
Mm.
It's such an interesting paradox, Uh, the fact that work seems to be much of less importance for people in their identity nowadays, and people seem to be much more willing to just move around. They don't feel so much belonging and ownership to workplaces. I think the climate change stuff, and I think all those things are really having a big impact on people's mental health. I think there are really macro things. We do a lot of corporate psychology work, and we only specialize in kind of big employers, uh, government departments and airlines and transport safety, that kind of stuff. And I just feel like in all those organizations, everybody's feeling frazzled and everybody's be like working to the max and burnt out and tired. And so, from a mental health point of view, I feel like there's stuff going on in society at the moment that's quite big, big change in a social world that's really affecting the well-being of people, particularly at work. I think I don't know
Yeah.
what you're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hearing mental health, the word coming out all the time, and I guess even kids develop mental health a lot younger. And so, are you saying that it's more around people not feeling connected and belonging? Hence, there's that loneliness that causes them to have mental health problem.
I think it's mental health problems are multifaceted,
Mm.
um, and there's a genetic component to it. There's a
Mm.
upbringing development component to it. There's a how you think about things component to it. There's a how you cope component. There's a lot of bits to it, but I do think one of it is around social connection, and that's why I think EO is so good, because it creates a bond and a social connection and a support structure for people that's kind of really important.
Yep. So tell me about how these corporates work. Do they have an employee assistance program or something, and then they provide their psychology to their staff, and you're kind of working with the staff?
Yeah, so we don't do the employee assistance stuff. We do kind of so we only work with kind of senior managers and leaders and things like that around their mental health. And we do specialized projects for them. So all of our staff are senior clinical psychologists, forensic psychologists, organizational psychologists. So you're kind of dealing with senior people doing more kind of complicated and sensitive type projects.
Yeah.
So we
So
do.
they're initiating themselves. They basically go, I have an issue and I want to work on this because I want to,
Yeah.
you know, improve myself for my job.
Yeah. Well, so for example, we did a project with a big employer that was going through a really large was employee contract negotiation, right? And it was causing a lot of disquiet for the managers. So we supported all the managers. So we put in a 6-month support program for those managers where we provided them with these small group support systems and individual supports and things like that, and helped them. Because it's a really interesting idea, like in getting off the topic a bit, but management, that when people go into difficult conversations with other people, most of the time they kind of know who they want to be in that conversation. And most of the time, most people want to be a good, decent person. They want to be compassionate, but they've got a different say. They want to be sensitive, but they want to help, they need to get through what they've got to do. So most people know who they want to be in difficult situations. And what gets in the way is a lot of our thoughts and our expectations and our beliefs and, am I going to be prying? Are they going to think that I don't care about them? Why would they listen to me? Like all that sort of stuff is the stuff that tends to prevent us from actually being who we want to be in the room in conversation with someone. Do a lot of that work, that kind of development work about, well, who do you want to be in these conversations with other people? And how do we identify the things that stop you from actually engaging in these conversations in the way that you want to be?
So how long does it really take for someone to, I guess, have a breakthrough or transform from feeling like this to there? Is it like a 12-month program or could be a few sessions?
Comes quite quickly, I think, for people. Yeah, I mean, you do a lot of coaching, right? So you probably feel that too, don't you?
Yeah.
That sometimes you don't need months and months and months with people. If you've got a good model for how to work with people, then people can get to where they need to get to quite quickly. I don't know. Is that what you?
Yeah. I think for me the experience is as long as you are ready and you want to make a change, like if that person themselves,
Yeah.
then it can be very fast and it should be fast. But it's when that person kind of is not ready and maybe being asked to do it or doing it for someone else or something,
Yeah.
then that's the hard part.
Yeah, and it's the discomfort that tells you that, right? So
Yeah.
you feel that discomfort of a situation, and it's that discomfort that if you lean into that discomfort, it leads you places. It takes what's going on here for you and what matters for you, and being able to. And part of it is being able to sit and experience discomfort, and part of it is about able to deal with things in a different way. But if you can do that, you can have quite big breakthroughs.
Yeah. That's right. And I think people know that they could live a better life or whatever, but it's just changing and ready to change is still something that they're not ready for because it's just more comfortable being where they are.
And it's also being comfortable with being imperfect, I think, like that's kind of really important, isn't it? Like you got to be comfortable making mistakes, giving yourself, being kind to yourself, being having self-compassion. Those things are kind of really, really important because none of us are perfect and we're all going to make mistakes. And so, that's a big part of mental health, I think, is, self-acceptance,
Yeah. Yeah.
and being able to be a bit more comfortable with who you are and where you're at, which isn't easy, it's easy to say, but it's not always easy to.
Yeah, it is. So what do you love about your job and I guess what's next? What's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, and like I think I said to you when we first met, like I've done a couple of big kind of training courses. So, I went to kind of INSEAD and took myself there and did a management course there. Did one at Oxford University last year in healthcare leadership, and in both of those, I've had really big leaps in how I feel about myself and how I feel about my work. So I'm hoping for another one of those. I don't know where it's going to come from yet, but I'm hoping for another one of those. And I think the next step for us is we're now moving into more of a sort of a merger and roll up thing with our business. So look at merging and buying other businesses that are like ours,
Yeah.
and so that's really exciting too. So I've been just finished a course again at INSEAD, an online course on mergers and acquisitions, and now moving into that kind of phase of my life,
Yeah.
and just trying to, like most people, just trying to enjoy what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. You're still thinking big, going for big things. So, yeah, this leads me to the last question. With everything that you're trying to do and have done, what do you want your kids to remember you for, or the people around you to remember Tony for?
It's a good question, isn't it? I think at work, I would want people to say that this is a place where I thrived and grew, and that it was a place in which I could be well. You know,
Mm,
like I really want a workplace where people are well and healthy and happy, because you spend most of your waking life at work, you know? So I think from a work point of view, I'd want that. I'm quite lucky with the psychology stuff because I feel like in my career I've done lots of fulfilling things, and there's lots of stuff that's happened with people that I'm super proud of. So I feel like that part of my career is pretty fulfilled. Uh,
mm.
For kids, that's a really good question, isn't it? I don't know. Do you know how to answer that one? I'm just what I'm thinking about. I don't know. What would I want to? I just think they want to grow up thinking that men are good, and that I've got 2 daughters, right? I think that there are good men out there. That you can be a man, but you can be kind.
Mm.
You can be tough when you need to, but you can be loving. Um, you know, um, that it's okay to be wrong. You know, it's good to try things. That
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I think I want my kids to say, "My dad taught me that kind of stuff." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds so simple and basic, but it's just so powerful, right? Just it's so hard for a lot of men to, to be vulnerable or to accept that they can make mistakes, or they don't always have to be macho. So I think that's just an amazing answer. That is the kind of message that I want other men to hear. Or yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, Tony. It's such a privilege talking to you. I'll make sure to put all your details in the description below so people can get in touch with you.
Thanks, Lynn. It was lovely chatting to you. Thanks very much.